What's going on, guys? Ryan O'Toole back here again, giving you guys another very exciting top 10 list. If you guys are new here, feel free to click that subscribe button and that bell notification icon for more reviews, reactions, rankings, and more movie content. This is a top 10 list I've been looking forward to making personally because one of the most common questions I get asked during Q&As or on my channel is, Ryan, who's your favorite director? This is an exciting video, guys. Of course, I want you guys to get down below in the comment section. Let me know your top 10 favorite directors of all time, because let me tell you guys, we are not going to agree on our lists at all. We're all going to have different favorite directors, ranked higher or lower. These are directors that I have seen the most of their filmography and my personal favorites. There may be some very well-known directors that you guys are probably expecting to show up in here, but the reason they're not in there is because I haven't seen a majority of their films. I have not seen a majority of Hitchcock's work, so he will not be in this list. I figured I should just let you guys know right off the bat. So I have some honorable mentions. First, I got 6 I'll breeze through quickly. My first honorable mention is Spike Lee. A fantastic director. Recently did BlacKkKlansman, also did Malcolm X, Do the Right Thing, He Got Game, some very classic films from the 90s and 80s. Damien Chazelle, who has a very high chance to becoming one of the greatest filmmakers of all time here. With his films he did, I absolutely love Whiplash. Whiplash is my 4th favorite film of all time. And then he did La La Land, which is a fantastic musical. First Man was the first film he really stepped out of his comfort zone and did a astronaut Neil Armstrong biopic. Kathryn Bigelow is the best female director working today, in my opinion. She did The Hurt Locker, which won Best Picture, which is a very great, gritty war movie. And then she also did Point Break with Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze. Ben Affleck, he's a phenomenal director whenever he steps in the director's chair. I love Argo, I love Gone Baby Gone, and The Town, my favorite of Ben Affleck's directed movies. And Live by Night, which is a pretty underrated sort of film that Ben Affleck has directed. Speaking of Ben Affleck, Gavin O'Connor, who I think is the most underrated director working today. The Way Back is my favorite film of the year so far. Just Gavin O'Connor's voice, his vision, and just his other films like Miracle and The Accountant, which is super underrated. And then, of course, his best film, his masterpiece, Warrior. M. Night Shyamalan missed the list because these guys, the Russo brothers, are my last honorable mentions. The Russo brothers, of course, with the MCU movies they've done, Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, Captain America Winter Soldier, and Captain America Civil War. Just what the Russo brothers have done throughout their very short years as directors. These guys know what they're doing, whether they're directing a comic book movie or producing such a really low-budget action film like Extraction. Those are my 6 honorable mentions, guys. Great directors, but just couldn't make my top 10 list. Without further ado, let's begin. So coming in at number 10 for me is going to be Bong Joon-ho. Bong Joon-ho is my favorite foreign filmmaker working today by far. I think all his movies are masterpiece films. And everyone now loves Bong Joon-ho because of how he swept this year's Oscars with Parasite, my favorite film last year, winning Best Picture, Best Director, Best International Feature, and Best Original Screenplay. Bong Joon-ho is such a creative voice in Hollywood right now. He's a phenomenal filmmaker. Parasite, The Host, Okja, Snowpiercer, just every film that this man touches turns to gold masterpiece level. I love the way he creates his stories. I love the way he directs them. He can either direct a really psychological thriller film, but a comedy as well. Coming in number 9 is going to be the man who is going to be very busy these next few years with his Avatar sequels. That is James Cameron, one of my favorite filmmakers for sure. James Cameron is a very popular filmmaker. Of course, with Avatar, I think this is the most overrated film of all time, but look at this man, he's directed some great movies. Terminator 2 Judgment Day, my favorite film of his, and the first Terminator. Just what he did with the Terminator franchise, making it just such an iconic sci-fi, horror, and action franchise altogether. And then he did Aliens. My God, one of the best sequels. Titanic as well. and The Abyss, some very underrated films. You should definitely go check those out. But I think James Cameron has such another creative voice in Hollywood. He makes these big epics that people are so anticipating. He has by far one of the biggest fan bases in Hollywood today. After Avatar, which was the most highest grossing film of all time until Endgame came right in and took that. I think James Cameron has a really creative voice. Coming in at number 8 for me is going to be Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott, one of the most epic filmmakers working today. I love Ridley Scott as a director. I love Alien, my favorite film of his by far. And then Blade Runner, of course, which I think is his most overrated film. The first Blade Runner movie. I know there's many cuts, and if you rewatch it multiple times, I guess you'll love it. But I like 2049 better. And then Gladiator, just a phenomenal film, which won Best Picture, and Russell Crowe Best Actor. Now, people are saying Ridley Scott has lost his footing with most recently Prometheus and Alien Covenant and what he directed with the Alien franchise. Now, I think Ridley Scott is still there, man. Whenever he puts his mind to something, you know he's going to make something phenomenal. And The Last Duel coming out with Adam Driver and Ben Affleck, that film I'll be highly anticipating. Number 7 is the master of psychological suspense thriller films right now. That is David Fincher. David Fincher, I love this director, and everybody loves David Fincher. Some of the films that he has made are some of the best of this past decade. Fight Club is just my favorite of Fincher's films because of everything that he did with that movie. Just the direction, the acting, the twist, one of the best twists in cinema history. Just in Fincher, whenever he tackles something else like The Social Network as well, which was a big Oscar contender, and Jesse Eisenberg as well, diving into Facebook, Seven as well. What's in the box? People are very passionate about the films he's made, and just everything that he does, when he touches it, it just turns to gold, and I just love David Fincher. Coming in at my number 6 is going to be one of the most classic directors, Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick, phenomenal filmmaker. My goodness, 2001: A Space Odyssey, I think, is for sure his best film. But my personal favorite of Kubrick is, of course, The Shining, my favorite horror movie of all time. Jack Nicholson, my favorite horror performance of all time. The fact he wasn't even nominated is still baffling. Eyes Wide Shut is definitely very underrated. A Clockwork Orange, just one-time watch for sure. But in general, Kubrick's vision, his eye for film, and just his love for film as well, just sparks on through that screen. Whenever you're watching a Stanley Kubrick movie, you see his name pop up, you know you're in for something special. Before I go into my top 5 favorite directors, guys, if this is your first time checking out my channel and you're enjoying hearing my top 10 favorite directors in cinema, please smash that like button. It really helps with the algorithm, and consider clicking that subscribe button because I do tons of top 10 lists like this. Lots of fun movie reviews, Blu-ray videos, and tons of movie content, and I do this on a weekly basis. Coming in at number 5 is going to be one of the coolest filmmakers, Quentin Tarantino. Just phenomenal filmmaker, very popular indeed. Tarantino just created some of my favorite films of all time for sure. I've talked so much about Tarantino. You can go check out some videos I did. I did a whole Tarantino series before Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Django Unchained, my favorite film from Tarantino, of course. Inglourious Basterds, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Pulp Fiction, of course, the Kill Bill movies. Jackie Brown, which I think is Tarantino's most underrated film, next to Death Proof. Just every film Tarantino touches is gold. He has one of the most respectful reputations in cinema. Everyone respects what Tarantino does, whatever he says about what he thinks about movies, the way he looks at them and directs them. Every actor who works with Tarantino just loves him because of how he envisions how he wants his films to look and how vulgar it's going to be. I think it's probably time to disappoint some people or maybe get some dislikes, I'm not sure, because of how low this man is on my list. People are probably expecting 1 or 2 for him, but I still absolutely love Martin Scorsese. Martin Scorsese is for sure, if you're talking about best filmmakers working right now, it's definitely Martin Scorsese. I think he's even over higher placement. I think everybody loves talking about their Goodfellas, the Departeds, the Raging Bulls, the Casinos, just all these classic mob gangster mafia movies, and then you get some really small films like Taxi Driver, and then most recently with The Irishman. The fact that he is still working today, 80-year-old man still making some of the best films, is just really inspiring. I love Scorsese, his personality, his love for film. I think he also makes some really underrated films like Shutter Island and Silence that people don't talk a lot about, Gangs of New York. Just, you can think of any time period and just say some films, you know Scorsese's directed it and that it came out at that time period, and it's one of the best in those time period because, like I said, Scorsese makes a classic every decade. Number 3 for me is going to be Christopher Nolan. Everyone loves Christopher Nolan, so you don't need to hear me talk about this man and some of the films he's made. The Dark Knight trilogy, just that whole entire trilogy, and what he did for the comic book movie genre, just with the character of Batman, the most iconic hero for sure. Inception, one of the best films ever made in the 2010s, and what he does with originality. And whenever he tackles something like a sci-fi film like Interstellar, which is very divisive, and a war movie that's very divisive with Dunkirk, I personally think Dunkirk is Nolan's most overrated film for sure. I just want to see Tenet as soon as possible. I do think it's going to get delayed. Man, Tenet, just that's the first film that everyone's going to be seeing going back to the theaters at some point. I just don't think it'll be soon, but I'm so excited for Tenet, guys. Number 2 for me is going to be Denis Villeneuve. Denis Villeneuve, what a filmmaker this man has become. Out of his films, definitely Blade Runner 2049 is my favorite from him. Just a sequel that I was not anticipating because I thought Blade Runner was a very overrated film, and it's leagues better. And just Denis Villeneuve also with Arrival as well, just a phenomenal film. And then he just does these small independent films like Enemy. Enemy is a very weird movie, very confusing, but I love Enemy. And Prisoners. Prisoners, one of the best dramas, Incendies. I just want to see Dune right now. If there was a film this year that I want to see tonight in review, it is gonna be Dune. But I think Dune will get delayed till next year because of what's going on. But still, in general, Denis Villeneuve just is a very phenomenal filmmaker. Whatever source material he tackles, he's gonna put his heart to it. In all of his films, majority are very underseen. If you have not seen a majority of his films, you got some homework to do. But coming in at number 1 is very obvious, Steven Spielberg. The most obvious choice I could put, but Spielberg has always been my favorite director. Just as a child, a teenager, and an adult, I still go back and revisit Spielberg films from time to time. Jurassic Park, my favorite film from Spielberg. Raiders of the Lost Ark, the whole entire Indiana Jones franchise. You get Jaws, Schindler's List, which I still have not seen yet. That's shocking. E.T. the Extraterrestrial. And Catch Me If You Can, Minority Report. So many movies to list off. Spielberg is phenomenal. He's very inspiring ever since I was a kid. And just his love for the whole world of cinema, the moviegoers, and just giving us the best time possible. There you go, guys. Those are my top 10 favorite directors working today. Again, let me know your list down below, how different we are. I'm curious to hear your list. Thank you guys, as always, for watching this top 10 list. All my social media links are in the description below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.